guys, this is Dr. Dimple Puri. Um, I hope I'm audible. This is my live session in association with DogSpot. So basically, today we have initiated to look after an aspect which is nutrition, which is most underlined and most untouched part. And I have associated with Team DogSpot to cover the most important aspects related to nutrition in pet science. So today's topic, what we are going to discuss would be diabetes mellitus in case of dogs and cats, especially dogs. So we all know that in modern world we all are becoming more diet conscious, nutrition conscious, and we are moving towards a healthier life. We are getting conscious about the calories, we are getting conscious about good carbs, good fats, good proteins, and so on. So I think that the pets deserves the same. They also deserve a healthier life, a well balanced nutrition life too. So if I talk about diabetes mellitus, good news is it's a treatable disease. It's not even a disease, it's a disorder which is treatable and it is managed. So what we need to do is that there is a commitment from a veterinarian, and there's a 100% commitment and lot of patience required from the pet owner. So it's a 100% treatable disorder. The only thing we need to manage and balance is the treatment and the nutrition part. So coming to diabetes mellitus, it's the most common endocrine disorder in case of dogs and cats. So in food, in general, if I talk about what all we feed to dog is carbs, proteins, fats, multivitamins, minerals, etc. So what diabetes mellitus is, it's basically a chronic carbohydrate metabolism disorder. This happens generally because of the reason because is insulin deficiency. Okay, so if I talk to you in the layman language so that most people who are not in the science field, they can understand it in a simpler way, it's like that the body is not able to use the glucose which is being produced in the body. Okay, so what happens is, then when the animal eats food or ingests food, so it passes through the digestive system and it enters the intestine. So when it enters the intestine, the sugar gets absorbed, and the sugar which is absorbed, it gets converted into simple sugar. Now this simple sugar is basically glucose, and this glucose is required by the body cells and different tissues to function. Now the key point is, this glucose is formed because the animal is having food, but whether this glucose is utilized by the body or the tissues is a question. So for the utilization or the better uptake of the glucose, there is a hormone required which is called as insulin. This diabetes mellitus happens when there is a decreased production of insulin in the body, or I can say there is decreased secretion of insulin in the body. So this can be because of many reasons. There are multiple reasons, but most common reasons in case of dogs is chronic pancreatitis, or it can be immune mediated. In cats, it is because of the deposition of amyloid, because the beta cells of the pancreas, basically the pancreas, it gets inflamed and the beta cells, they get damaged. So because of that, we see that there is a decrease in the production of the insulin, or maybe there is a decrease in the secretion of the insulin. Another very important factor which leads to diabetes mellitus in dogs and cats is insulin resistance, and this factor is mainly unseen or unnoticed and ignored. So what happens in insulin resistance is, when your animal is too obese, whether it's a dog or a cat, it can lead to insulin resistance in the body. And another reason is there are so many diseases where veterinarians, they recommend you glucocorticoids, and they are important for the conditions, and that is why they recommend. But when there is a prolonged treatment for this glucocorticoids, so this leads to insulin resistance in the body. Another reason is when there is prolonged intake of progesterone, or when there is prolonged secretion of progesterone in the body, that can also lead to diabetes mellitus. So this is in general was that what is diabetes mellitus and how it is caused. So what are the main clinical signs of diabetes mellitus is that animal will have very typical symptoms. Animal will drink more water, which is known as polydipsia. Animal will urinate more, and it will urinate in more amount. So that condition is called as polyuria. And animal will start eating more, which is called as polyphagia. So there is polydipsia, polyuria, and polyphagia. The reason behind this is, see, the normal level of glucose in the blood serum should be 75 to 120 milligram per deciliter. When this goes beyond, for example, in dogs, if I say when the blood glucose level goes beyond 180 milligram per deciliter, or in cats it goes beyond 280 milligram per deciliter, the glucose start excreting down in the urine. So this is the main reason of polydipsia and uria. Why? Because when the urine starts coming in when the glucose starts coming in the urine, that condition is called as glucosuria, and this condition leads to the dehydration, because the water also, because of the osmolarity conditions, the water also is drained out in the urine. That is why animal feel dehydrated, and animal tend to drink more water, and when animal tend to drink more water, animal will urinate more. So this is the basic reason why there is polydipsia and polyuria in diabetic patients. So whenever your animal, your pet or your fur babies, they are having this sign of drinking more water, eating more food, and urinating more in an abnormal way, this is something to worry about, and you should immediately report to a veterinarian. Another major sign of diabetes mellitus in dogs is weight loss. Now, why this weight loss happens is, as I told you, that when the pet is having food, the glucose is obviously produced, right? The sugars are absorbed and the glucose is produced in the body. But that glucose remains in the circulation because the insulin is not present there to take it to the tissues. So now the tissues and the body parts, the body cells, they become energy deprived. They are lacking the energy to perform. And when they lack energy to perform, that condition is known as metabolic starvation. And this is a very serious condition, and we need to worry about that. So animal feels lethargic, animal will not have interest in any other activity, and there will be a continuous weight loss. Reason being, animal needs energy to do the activities, to eat, to pee, to poop, to digest, to play, right? So the animal has to get the energy from other sources. So what happens is, rather than utilizing the glucose which has already been formed in the body because of deficiency of insulin, the animal starts breaking down its fat and proteins as a source of energy, due to which there is a breakdown of muscle mass and there is a lot of weight loss. So this is another very important clinical signs in case of diabetes mellitus. Another, so these are the typical signs which we talk about, and they are reasons of concern. But as far as signs are concerned, there is a more serious problem which is called as complications of diabetes mellitus. So diabetes mellitus has lot of complications, and it make it serious. For example, this condition is basically related to old age, and old age dog has a very serious complication of getting cataract. Reason being is that glucose is metabolized in a lot of ways in the body, like there are a lot of pathways how the glucose has glucose get metabolized in the body. But there's a particular pathway which is called as sorbitol pathway. What happens in sorbitol pathway is that glucose gets metabolized in the lens of the animal, and when the lens of the animal it is metabolizing the glucose, there is edema of the lens, and that leads to cataract and decreased vision in the animal. Another major complication, what I have seen in diabetes mellitus cases, is they become prone to lot of infections, and especially they have become prone to UTI, that is a lower urinary tract infections, for example cystitis. The reason behind this is that there is less production of the antimicrobials or the neutrophils in the body, and when this happens is so there are higher chances of infections in the body. Another complication is hind leg weakness. Now, what happens in diabetes mellitus is because of this insulin deficiency, there is a serious problem of electrolyte imbalance also, and there is a problem which is called as hypokalemia, that is potassium level goes down, and due to that reason there is hind leg weakness in the dogs. Apart from these complications, there is a very serious complication in case of diabetes mellitus, and we should be really worried about that, is diabetic ketoacidosis. And trust me, this condition can be life-threatening for your pets. Why this condition is life-threatening for your pets? The reason behind this is, as I told you, the animal needs energy to perform activity. The animal needs energy to eat, to drink, to pee, to poop. So that animal will start breaking down the fats and the proteins in the body. The free fatty acids, they get breakdown and they start producing the keto acids. Now what happens is, when the keto acids level and the blood glucose level, they increase in the blood serum, this leads to a very life-threatening condition, and it can lead to renal failure, it can lead to liver failure, and it can lead to a lot of electrolyte imbalance and cause metabolic acidosis in the body. And you have to start the immediate treatment and consult your veterinarian as soon as possible. So when this condition happens, your veterinarian's first and primary role should be to check the electrolyte imbalance, whether there is hypokalemia or whether there is hyperkalemia. So according to the electrolyte imbalance, your veterinarian will choose the choice of fluid. Maybe it can be NaCl 0.9%, or it can be Ringer's lactate solution, depending upon the electrolyte condition or situation in the body. Another reason, a very important part, is controlling the ketone bodies in the animal. So for that, you have to immediately start using insulins. Now insulin initially, see, whenever your dog is diagnosed with diabetes mellitus, it is a life-changing situation, and your pet has to take this insulin for lifelong. It becomes part of the lifestyle. So insulin we do is 0.2 units per kg body weight initial dose, right? As I told you, that normal level of insulin is 75 to 120 milligram per deciliter. So our goal is to bring out the values to the normal level. If it is huge, like for example 500, 600, our primary goal is to bring down the glucose level to 250 milligram per deciliter. So the initial dose what we use is, that is 0.2 units per kg body weight, and then monitor the blood glucose level continuously. Reason being, it's very easy to continuously you can check and monitor the blood glucose level by taking the blood from the ear vein, because it's the simplest way one can do it at home, because it's not easy to bring down the dog every time, every hour in the hospital. So you can do it easily at your home through the ear vein. So what you do is monitor your dog's blood glucose level every hour, so that the blood glucose level reaches to 250 milligram per deciliter. Another step is, when this gets to 250 milligram per deciliter, change the dose. You can variate the dose between 0.2 to 0.5 till you get the normal blood glucose levels. So this is how you follow when there is a life-threatening situation of ketoacidosis, or there are a lot of ketone bodies production in the body. Now, how you diagnose this case? The simple way of diagnosing this case is through blood glucose serum test, serum glucose analysis. Another is you go through urine analysis. You can see the presence of glucose in the urine. And also there are fructosamine is is one of the segment which usually people don't perform it, but I guess it should be performed, especially in case of cats. Reason being, cats are very sensitive and very fragile, and stress can lead to induced hyperglycemia in cats. So whenever there is induced hyperglycemia in cats, it is must to differentiate it between the induced and the true hyperglycemia. So for that, fructosamine, serum fructosamine levels, they are choice of test. Whenever there is induced stress induced hyperglycemia in cats, the fructosamine levels will be normal, they will not be raised. And if it is true hyperglycemia, you can see the increased fructosamine levels in the body. So this is about the diagnosis, and as I told you, the treatment is very simple. You have to keep your dog on insulin lifelong, but along with the treatment, I have seen that nutrition plays a very important role, which is often not evaluated by most of the people. They think that nutrition doesn't play any role in these conditions, but this is totally managed. This goes side by side. This is a parallel situation where treatment and management goes parallel. Why? Because you cannot keep the dog at insulin if your nutrition, if the dog's nutrition is not balanced, because there are a lot of risk in the body. And what happens is that, what is the primary aim of nutritionist here? So what happens is, the veterinarian or the nutritionist will make a treatment plan for your dog according to its requirement. Every dog has a different requirement, every dog has a different body, every dog has a different response to the treatment. So your doctor, your veterinarian will create a treatment plan, and there should be regular monitoring of the blood glucose level in the dogs, because this cannot be avoided. Third most important part, this is the approach how a veterinarian should move, and the third most important part here is to modify the treatment plans, right? To modify the treatment plans according to the response of the body. So these are the major steps how you approach a case of diabetes mellitus. Now what happens is, if your female dog is suffering from diabetes mellitus, I would suggest you to go for the spaying of the female. Reason being, this is that the progesterone level, which is continuously produced in the diestrous phase of the female, they lead to the insulin resistance, and it can create a worse situation for the females. So it is advisable to spay the female as soon as your females pets are diagnosed with diabetes mellitus. Now, what my primary goal is as a nutritionist when I offer my clients or pet parents whose pets are suffering from diabetes mellitus is, my approach is very simple. I have to see what is the requirement of the animal. First, I have to look whether the animal is obese or it is underweight. Now, what happens is, if the animal is obese, my first goal or my first priority towards it is that I have to bring down the weight of the obese animal to near normal, or I have to work on weight reduction. So my primary goal as a nutritionist becomes that there is a reduction of 0.5 to 1% of reduction in the body weight per week in case of cats, and in case of dogs it is 1 to 2% of loss of body weight in case of dogs. So this is how it works as a nutritionist. This is my primary goal whenever I come across an animal who is obese. Second part, the most important part is, if your dog or if your cat is underweight, so this becomes another serious problem, because diabetes mellitus is associated with weight loss, and I have to prevent further weight loss. So what I need to do is first bring down the underweight animal to the normal body weight, so that I can further work on the insulin controls and the glucose level controls. If I do not control on the body weight, my next step is not even worth trying, because the weight plays a very important role. Now, as I said in the beginning of my session, that we have become, we are in such era that we are all calorie conscious. We understand the meaning of calorie. We understand the meaning of calorie deficit. Now, why this calorie part is important in dogs or cats which are suffering from diabetes mellitus? Reason being, this is your dog's body has a particular requirement, and that requirement totally depends upon the body weight of the animal and its activity. Also, it also depends whether it is neutered or it is intact. So we have to take care of everything, and we have to calculate a particular calorie requirement of a pet. When you get the calorie calculated from your veterinarian, then you can proceed towards the insulin controls level in the body, and this calorie becomes the disciplinary part of animals lifestyle. Another most important approach, what I believe, is that you have to continuously monitor your animal's body weight and your animal's body score condition twice, at least once or at least twice in the month. Reason being that is because you, and that is very important, that you stick to a one measuring weighing machine, because there should not be any fluctuations. So you have to be very sure you are maintaining the body weight. Another important part is we have to be very cautious about the glycemic indexes. Now, what happens is when you feed your animal should not get hyperglycemia after the feed, and this is a major thing you have to get controlled on. That is why it is very important to consult a nutritionist before feeding your diabetic dog or cat. Another reason is that there is a particular type of feed what you prefer in dogs and cats. Now, dogs, you prefer higher fiber diet and complex carbs diet. Fibers and complex carbs make a good combination of the feed in the diabetic animals. Reason being is the fiber which we are giving to the animal, it slowly releases the glucose to the tissues. What was the role of the insulin? So it slowly secrete and evenly distribute that glucose to the different body parts of the body. And in cats, we prefer higher protein diet and low carb diet, and honestly we do not prefer fat diet, because we don't know what is the basic reason of diabetes mellitus. Maybe it can be pancreatitis. Sometimes what happen is, I've seen that you're working on the glycemic indexes of the dog. For example, I have created a diet which is good, which has good glycemic index, and it it is calorie counted, but still the animal is not having the weight control. It can be, then we have to, it is not gaining weight. For example, if it is not gaining weight, then that is the thing I have to get worried about. Then I have to consider it a condition which is exocrine pancreatitic insufficiency. Now, what happens is, if this is the condition, then I have to work on the another aspect, and this becomes another serious problem for the dog. So consulting a nutritionist for the diabetic patient is a must, and it is recommended to be calorie oriented only. Now, another thing I would like to suggest is that as we follow a particular discipline in the life for our health, for our well-being, we choose the best possible diets, and we choose the best possible times, and we are very disciplined in our lifestyle. The dogs require or expect the same things from you. Now, I have seen lot of people, they say that doctor, we are feeding the our dog in a right amount, we are giving insulin doses, but our dog is not having normal glucose level. Now, why this happen is, there is no discipline. Sometimes you feed your dog, for example, today I feed my dog 8 in the morning, and tomorrow I feed my dog 10 in the morning tomorrow. And if I'm giving insulin today at 8:30 in the morning, tomorrow if I give the insulin at 12:30 in the afternoon, that makes no sense. That will not work. So it is very important to create a discipline in your dog's lifestyle. So my recommendation to all my clients is always that whenever you switch your pets to the diabetic food, make sure that you are following a particular discipline. What I recommend to people is that you consult your veterinarian, get the calorie counted. When you count the calories, give 2/3 of that total calculated calories in the morning. For example, if you give 2/3 of the calculated calories in the morning, after that you can give the first dose of insulin. And if you give the first dose of insulin, why I'm stressing out to give food in the before insulin, I will tell you about it. And another is, when you give the first dose of insulin, after 8 to 10 hours you can give another remainder meal of the dog, and you can give the second dose after 8 to 10 hours or 10 to 12 hours if the dog is on the 2 doses of insulin per day. Now, why I prefer giving the food before insulin injection is because it is very important for the dog to get the calories inside him. If the dog is not having the recommended calories or the calculated calories, there can be a serious problem of hypoglycemia, and I will not recommend you to give the insulin injection if your dog has not taken enough calorie intake or total calorie intakes. So it is very important that I follow a criteria that I recommend my patients to give 2/3 or half of the calculated diets. So there is a question, could you design a course on various aspects for us? Of course, I can create that. I can create a design. I make my own recipes. I'm going to come on that also. So thank you for the question. So what I recommend to my dog patients is that I usually give 2/3 of the meal first and then the insulin dose, so that they don't suffer from hypoglycemia. Because if they suffer hypoglycemia, trust me, the only organ which is affected very badly is the brain, and then it becomes a very serious situation to control and to take your your dog back into the normal situation. And then your veterinarian then has to follow a different protocol of treatment where dextrose is involved, glucose is involved. That's a different protocol. But that is why we say that there should be discipline. Then another very important part is number of calories and the ingredients. It is very important, whatever amount of calories you are giving in the morning, you should give the same amount of calories in the evening. There should be no fluctuation in the amount of calories in 2 meals, and stick to the number of meals in the diabetic patients. You cannot leave diabetic patients to the ad-lib diet, because then you cannot work on the calories, then you cannot work on the hyperglycemia. It will worsen the condition. So basically what happens is that you can create a particular chart for your diabetic patient. You can give the variations in the diet. There are a lot of prescribed diets available in the market, or you can consult your nutritionist to make the homemade recipes for your dog. So there are a lot of options for the diabetic patients. For example, Hills, Royal Canin, they are creating really good prescription diets. You can work on that. Sometimes what happens is the dog is not able to accept the change in the food, and there is a proper protocol for that. You don't have to give or change the diet immediately. There is a protocol of changing the diet slowly and gradually. You can, on the first day, you can put 75% of the already having feed with 25% of the kibbles, which belongs to the diabetic feed. Another is after a few days you can go to 50-50 ratio, then you can go to 75-25 ratio, and then you can completely and gradually convert the diet into totally diabetic food. So this is how you change the food. And sometimes the dog do not accept the prescription diets, they do not have the palatability for it. For the dog who suffer from diabetes mellitus, palatability becomes a big question mark, because if there is no palatability in the food, they do not take the calories, they do not ingest the required amount of calories, and then you cannot proceed with the insulin, you cannot proceed with the insulin controls. So palatability is a major issue. If you think your dog is not cooperating you with the prescription diets, you can follow the homemade diets, and you can consult your nutritionist for the recipes. So I can just give you a brief idea about what ingredients I use basically for formulating the diet plans for my clients. So your primary goal is to focus on the ingredients which have low glycemic index. So you can use chicken, you can use turkey, you can consider beef if it is available in your area. You can consider beef, it's a very good ingredient. In veggies, lot of people ask me that we want to include veggies, and veggies plays a very important role. So what you do is you can induce broccoli, you can induce carrots. Carrots have very low calories and very low glycemic index, and you can introduce green beans. Then you can go introduce broths. Then you can introduce oatmeals. Psyllium husk, which is also called as isabogol. 2 spoons or 1 spoon of isabogol every day makes a big and huge difference in the diet of the animal. So you can use these ingredients. So by when I touch upon this this raw materials, or if I say ingredients, I would like to share one of the simplest thing which I come across whenever I am when I'm formulating the feed for the animal. So what happens is a lot of people they say and they feed their dogs raw food, raw meat, raw chicken. And why? Because they have this information that okay, the dogs have evolved from wolves, and okay, you can believe in that theory that dogs are evolved from the wolves, but you do not consider your dogs as wolves. So please kindly do not feed them raw feed, raw chicken, raw turkeys. Reason being, if you feed your animals raw food or raw meat, there are a lot of deprivation of the very important vitamins and minerals, especially if I talk about calcium, phosphorus, vitamin D. If you're feeding your animals raw meat, these vitamins, minerals, they get deprived. And there are a lot of more vitamins and minerals they are deprived when you give your dog this raw feed. Another very important aspect of not giving your dog the raw feed is that there is lot of contamination of the bacteria, lot of bacterial contamination. For example, salmonella contamination, listeria contamination, and they lead to further crisis, which is foodborne diarrhea. Then you are trying to control one situation, but then if you're feeding another raw materials, raw food, and they can welcome another infections. And as I said, that diabetes mellitus patients are very prone to infections because of the low antimicrobial count or low production of the fighting agents in the body. So you can consult your veterinarians when you design or formulate a diet for your pet animals, which is it's a right track for the pet animal, right? And also I would like to say few do's and don'ts. As I say, some people, they ask that our dog is only having rice. Rice is not at all bad, but what kind of rice you can give your dog is a question. White rice is not at all healthy for the dogs which are suffering from diabetic mellitus. I would suggest you to believe in replacements. You can replace white rice with the brown rice. If you think that your dog is only having chapatis, please, you can switch on from wheat, you can switch on to sorghum and barley. Sorghum and barley chapatis, they are very nice because they have low glycemic index. So you have all the replacements. Your nutritionist will have all the replacements, and they will guide you in a proper way. So this is how one works when you have to formulate a diet for the dog. And there is another point was that diabetic ketoacidosis was one of the major life-threatening situation, because there's a lot of production of the keto acids. So there are a lot of supplements in the market. So what we do is we introduce some of the supplements in the dog's diet. For example, we can introduce vitamin A's, we can introduce vitamin E's, and then we can introduce L-carnitine supplements. Why L-carnitine is important? Because it helps in the conversion of red rice. Malvika has asked a question. You can introduce red rice, yes, of course, but you have to be very particular about the calories intake, what you're feeding your dog. Just get your dog analyzed by a nutritionist, calculate the calorie intake, and you can go he can formulate a proper diet for you, which can include red rice, which can include brown rice, which can include different ingredients. As I said, these were some ingredients which particularly I use when I formulate a ration for the animal. So you can use that, of course, but my point is that you should also use this L-carnitine levels and chromium. If you think chromium is deficient in the body, get it checked, because chromium helps in cleaning of the glucose from the body, and it helps the diabetic patients in the glucose clearance. Another is L-carnitine is very important in diabetic ketoacidosis. Reason being that it helps in the conversion of this energy in the liver, and this prevents the muscle loss. So these are few things we focus on, and we really believe that your veterinarian or your nutritionist can really work on your calorie controls and your insulin controls, and they can create proper diet for your dog or your cats, which is a must for diabetic patients. Treatment, of course, insulin is lifelong part, but also what happen is that you have to regularly monitor that. Sometimes what happen is you are overdosing the insulin. Sometimes that much insulin is not required for the animal, but you're overdosing it, and then you say that my dog is not losing weight. So why this happen is the insulin leads to anabolic effect on the adipose tissue. It creates a deposition of fat, and then we figure out that okay, your dog is not losing weight, but the focus was the weight reduction. So we have to monitor the dose of the insulin as well regularly. We have to modify the plans looking after the response of the animal. So this is all about the nutrition, and this is all about the diets. You can contact your own nutritionist, you can contact me, or you can contact any veterinarian you think that your dog is suffering from diabetic mellitus, because only situation what needs to be focused is the balanced scenario, or the parallel treatment of insulin injections, and then the nutrition plan. So if you all have any questions, I can answer your questions here, or you can contact me personally, or you can contact the Dog Spot team. This is all about diabetes, and I personally feel that I have given you some information that you can relate on, and it was not a deep science. I do not wanted to touch the deep science of diabetes mellitus, because I want people to understand the basic requirement, or the basic fundamental of this situation, and how to deal with it. Whatever the emergency situations are, if your dog is vomiting, the dog is not having food, or the cat is not having food, then what are the emergency conditions it can lead to, and what is the primary goal of the veterinarian or the nutritionist. So if you all have any other question related to diabetes mellitus, please you can send me on the comment sections. I can could we have one webinar on preventive measures and nutrition basics? Yes, of course, we can have one webinar. We will consider your request, and you can also because in association with Dog Spot team, they are doing a very it's a great effort to consider nutrition as a basic part. And of course, you can send out your request, whatever topics you want to get covered, whether it is this diabetes, whether it is pancreatitis, whether it is parvo, whether there is any condition you name about, or general basics of nutrition. Of course, we can cover it. There is no problem. Okay. I'm still waiting. If there are another questions related to diabetes, I am open to answer. And also, you can consider the meals. You can consider us providing you the meals. We can do that. We can give you the recipes, or you can also consult your respective veterinarians for that. So I guess I have covered everything. I'm still waiting if you have questions. And Malvika, you can text me, or you can drop me a message, whatever topics you want to cover. Any topic is welcome. We can create another webinar for that. Okay, so I guess this is end of my session. I would just like to end it that if you have any other questions, you can drop us the message. We'll come back to you. We'll revert you back as soon as possible. Also, if you have any other topics in your mind, you can tell us. And I hope I have covered every doubts of yours regarding diabetes mellitus. And I hope now you create a disciplinary lifestyle for your pets, and follow a routine, because it is very important to follow a routine for the pets. Yes, the Dogspot people have sent you a link, so you can please contact them for any other live sessions, and we are open to it. And I hope you like the session, and I hope you found it informative. And if any other further details on diabetic mellitus is required from my end, please just let me know. I hope you take care of your pets in a nice and in a disciplinary way. This is all I have to say. Thank you so much. It was so great talking to you guys. Thank you.